Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to take a look at Cull Obsidian. So I did manage to pull him as a 6-star after doing a grueling featured 5-star grind. So that pretty much means 6-star is going to be the one we're going to be looking at for most part. But yeah, so Cull Obsidian, we're going to be talking about the great, the good, the bad and the ugly with the character in this video. So I did quite a bit of playing with him since yesterday, because that's only when I pulled Cull Obsidian. And the first bit of footage is going to be from Realm of Legends. Now, I am running suicides with my Cull Obsidian. I know there aren't too many videos out there with suicides using Cull, but the main reason he can do it fairly effectively is because of Nick Fury and Deadpool synergy. Basically, we immediately remove that bleed heal up for some, so that actually kind of helps us become more sustainable, because the block damage is annoying, but that heal at the beginning do help us recover some of that. And then, like as an additional safeguard, I'm running Heimdall plus Thor Ragnarok synergy, so we can heal up one more time during the fight. But that isn't really needed for like regular questing. It's just for these longer labyrinth fights. So anyways, our team is Heimdall, Thor Ragnarok, Nick Fury, and Deadpool X-Force, and Cull Obsidian. So that's all specifically done to make him kind of more durable and avoid me having to use items. But with this setup, I'm actually able to run full suicides and still have a good time with Cull and don't have any need to kind of push in a lot of items in him while I'm running through Realm of Legends and regular quests. So there is the first thing to take away. He is actually decently sustainable with suicides because of the Nick Fury heal, and the fights don't last too long, so that heal kind of offsets a lot of the chip damage. And I think it's actually like one of the better ways to run Cull. I will probably be making another video on Cull Obsidian, like without suicides, without these synergies, just him bare boned, and we'll check how is his durability doing then. But yeah, because with suicides we essentially, because of Nick Fury, we're healing. We're not really throwing special attacks aside from special 3 to get our Fury's blessings back, so we don't take any recall damage. And this helped Cull Obsidian to be kind of like substantially more sustainable without using many items, which is one of the bigger problems with the Cull Obsidian. Right, so let's take a look at about the great stuff. So as you can see here, we're about 28 hits in, and we're already starting to hit immensely hard. Just before level 3, we're going to activate our root buff. If my Cull Obsidian were to be duped, I could go another way and use the Fury for extra damage instead. But now I'm relying on my road buff. And now we're going to see we're at 35 hits in, and let's just take a look how much this special 3 is going to deal to this vision. So we're 35 hits at the time of launching special, and his health pretty much gone. So we finish him off in 44 hits. So 500 health done in 44 hits. It's amazing. Obviously his damage output, once he's ramped up on at least I would say like 5+ Fury's blessings, just go through the roof. It's crazy good. He's probably kind of like the biggest damage potential in the game, maybe aside from Proxima Midnight or something. So that is a great bit about Cull Obsidian. What's good about him as well is the fact that he has access to basically true accuracy. He can block projectiles, which is not irrelevant. So in theory he destroys Infinity War Iron Man with ease, for instance, because he can parry him easily and he can get rid of all of his armor ups via his heavy attack. The good bit about Cull Obsidian as well is that his heavy attack has a huge range, so it means you can pretty much punish any opponent's heavy attack with your own with relative ease, because some champions who have shorter range heavy attacks do struggle to punish other heavy attacks. But Cull Obsidian does not have that problem, just because, yeah, it has a huge range and he covers a lot of ground while doing so. And that kind of fits perfectly with his playstyle. So the character does have quite good qualities about it that make him as exciting as he has been. Like, everybody is on this Cull Obsidian hype train pretty much. And you can see why. Definitely the damage, everybody likes the big numbers, and it's crazy good once you get him ramped up. Now we're gonna slowly start talking about the bad, and then we're gonna get into the ugly, and then I'm gonna give my final thoughts about Cull Obsidian. So the bad about him is the fact that he has no immunities. The bad about him is that he does need that ramp up, and your first fight is going to be gruelingly long. Like, it took me 200 hits to take down Winter Soldier with Cull Obsidian with this team, and I left that fight out just because it was so long. And those 200 hits, they don't come fast. For instance, there are champions like Carnage, like Blade, who get to these hits like immensely fast just because they're spamming special attacks, they do full hit combos, they get extra power gain. With Cull Obsidian, that hit counter is relatively low, kind of like with Captain America Infinity War, just because you play with your parry heavy technique, you don't spam specials, you don't kind of stun lock opponents. There is nothing that kind of like helps you dish out many hits quickly. The fact that it took 200 hits for Cull Obsidian would probably be equal to 4 to 450 hits for Blade, for instance, just because Blade spams a lot more specials, he has multi-hit special attack, and so I reckon Blade could land about 400 hits in about the same time Cull Obsidian lands 200 hits, if not more. So there goes. Even though the hit count isn't too long, the fights themselves seem like really difficult, especially the first one. Once you have 3 persistent charges, the fight's already like a lot better. As in comparison, when I was fighting Captain Marvel with 3 charges on, it only took like 120 hits to kill Captain Marvel. So there's already like a massive increase. So the first fight is the most critical, and you basically just need to be able to get through that first fight, and everything else is going to be easier from that point on. But the problem in many of the more difficult quests is that the first fight is already hard, because the way Kabam is making our quests in Act 6 in Wary and stuff like that, quite often you already start with like a really difficult fight. It's not kind of like that you start fighting with weaker opponents and build your way up to stronger ones. So you need to be really careful to kind of pick the first fight for Cull Obsidian to start building up his persistent charges. Like when I was testing him in Act 6, and I'm going to show some footage afterwards, it was fairly difficult to kind of even find a place where to kind of start ramping him up, especially like from the get-go. So you can't really do every single fight with Cull Obsidian, and that is the next point where we're going to be going in discussing the bad about Cull Obsidian. Because Cull Obsidian has a lot of different nodes that he can do. Cull Obsidian has a lot of different conditions that he must fulfill, and he has quite a few bad matchups as well. Champions like Kingpin, Agent Venom, Crossbones are all kind of like a kryptonite to him, because you're not going to be able to stack up your armor breaks, and that is basically going to destroy your damage output. So unless you're going to be on like massive amount of persistent charges towards the end of the quest, if you're going to be facing these champions at the beginning, you can have a really bad time. You're going to want to use different champion. And then you obviously have the problem that if opponent is stun immune, the good that I mentioned is you can always block bait the heavy attack and punish it with your own heavy attack, but that's going to take out a lot of your health, just because his block proficiency is another subject entirely. And then you obviously have nodes like Buffet, because if you start against Buffet, it's going to eat all your Thanos blessings up immediately. You have, although Cull deals relatively well with Masochism, there are still quite a few different nodes that like really kind of Cull struggles with. Even like the basic Spite is something that Cull has problems with. And so that is like the second really bad thing about Cull that I don't like, because you need to have pretty much perfect fighting conditions. You need to have the ability to parry opponent, ideally, otherwise you're going to be taking a lot of block damage. You must make sure the opponent isn't immune to like armor break or doesn't shrug off your debuffs, because that is how you get your insane numbers on. You need to make sure that your buffs can activate like Rout and Thanos' blessings, so you can't really have all these kind of like hindering nodes. So there's going to be a lot of paths and a lot of fights where you can't use Cull Obsidian despite how good he is, or rather you'd struggle using him, is what I'm going to say. And that is, in my opinion, the main thing that's going to kind of like disturb this champion from becoming absolute god tier, like, or beyond god tier, or whatever people call tiers these days. Because all the block proficiency thing, like, you could get over it, because like we have champions like Corvus there who are also fairly item hungry when you run them in Alliance War and stuff like that, because it's just the way it is. But the fact that there's a lot of fights you can't really do well, that is going to be the biggest problem, I guess. aside from that, so aside from the fact that there are many things in the game that he can't do, which in my opinion is extremely important kind of indicator how useful the champions are. For instance, Corvus, Ghost, Omega, Quake are all amazing champions just because there are very few things they cannot do. Cull doesn't quite measure up to that standard. He can out-damage all of them, without a doubt, but it's definitely not as easy with him. And another thing that I'm going to be talking about is... So, another thing is his animations. His animations, in my opinion, are made to be unnecessarily long. Like, his heavy attack takes absolute ages when you compare it to, I don't know, regular champions like Magic or even Captain America Infinity War or champions like that. His heavy attack is like twice as long at least. All of his specials are pretty much twice as long as that is. And that is kind of like a double-edged sword that might give him some upper hand in certain situations. For instance, like when you're fighting against Bane and things like that, because you're going to have a bigger Bane transfer window. And on the other side, if you happen to face Cull on defense, he's going to be a tricky opponent if he has Bane node on him, just because how long his animations take. You can often find yourself taking extra Bane damage just because of the length of the animations. But in general, I think the fact that his animations are so long for heavy attack, and that's pretty much all that you're going to be doing, you're going to be spamming heavy attacks, increase the actual fight length. It obviously doesn't increase the number of hits, but it will increase the time the fight takes, especially, and when you're ramping up, that's something that, I don't know, I just can't get used to it. It's really kind of bothering me that his animations seem to be like really unnecessarily slow. Heimdall is like another character who has like a really slow heavy attack, which kind of bugs me. But yeah, that might be just me nitpicking, but I do think it has actual in-game implications, that it does extend the length of the fight. But anyway, so let's check out how Cull is going to do in 6.1. So that's like a no retreat node, and we can see here first fight against Agent Venom, which is absolutely horrible matchup for Cull to begin with, because we can't do anything with his armor breaks. No retreat, Agent Venom, and we have no persistent charges. So this is the kind of thing that I mentioned before. Like, immediately we don't have our persistent charges racked up, and it's a difficult fight. It's a really skill intensive fight. It's not going to be short by any means, and yeah, that is going to be like one of the things we're going to have to deal with when we're playing Cull, that we're always going to have like our hardest, trickiest time of the quest at the beginning of the quest while we're ramping him up, especially if we have to go up against like more difficult opponents. But so far here we're playing well. We haven't lost our combo. We have taken some chip damage here and there, but 50 hits, and Agent Venom is about like halfway down, so it's not overall too bad. But keep in mind, this is like a 6-star with Suicide, so he's meant to punch quite well, but the numbers he puts on are fairly underwhelming though. So yeah, we're critting for 1800 as a 6-star. That's not a good look there while we're not racked up. But after this fight, we're gonna see that we kind of like increase our fighting speed quite considerably and quite easily. And yeah, it's just the fact that our first fight is quite tricky. So again, I'm gonna let the fights run in background. I completely also missed the fact that he absolutely destroyed Realm of Legends Wolverine without even having a need to launch a special 3 attack. That was cool. But anyways, and then we're gonna talk about the ugly of Cull Obsidian. And what is ugly and what is really, really bad about this character is they designed a character that relies massively on parrying, blocking, and kind of doing his heavy attacks, and gave him absolutely rubbish block proficiency. So honestly, this was pretty much the only way I figured out I can run Cull without items and try and manage to get to the end of the quest. Was with Suicides and with this additional healing that I'm getting here. Like, if I wouldn't be running Suicides, number one, again, the fights would last longer, and I would probably be around already on like 50% health just after that Agent Venom fight. And I am gonna record another video when I'm using Cull without Suicides, when I change my mastery setup. But yeah, so this is already kind of like me going out of my way to help Cull be sustainable. Oh, we did mess up here. I ate a couple of hits, but it's not a big deal. But yeah, and I'm helping him remain sustainable, and fair enough, then he can do it. But the fact that they made a champion that relies heavily on parrying or block baiting out heavy attacks and just kind of like taking all this chip damage, a champion with like no block efficiency, it's just crazy. That's like a oxymoron kind of thing. It's like it's meant to be like this huge offset, and it is going to be a huge offset. So what I think Cull is going to do, for instance, like Alliance War, probably maybe not for the middle path. For paths 5 and 6 he isn't going to do too well, just because they're pretty much from fight 1 you have already kind of like difficult and tricky nodes. For path 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, I think Cull can actually be viable AW attacker. It's going to do a lot of damage depending on like what you need to deal with. But but whenever you're going to be playing Cull, you are going to be using potions. That is a fact, and Cull is going to be an expensive champion to run, especially like in terms of Alliance War, where all of the fights are hard. You're going to be taking block damage. There are plenty of nodes to hinder you, where you can't use Cull, so you can't bring like a full support team for him. So that means you're going to be potting up. How good is he going to do in like 6.2 and further up? That remains to be seen. So far, when we took a look at Variant 2 and Act 6, he was doing alright, but only on like certain sections. And yeah, there were things he could do, there are things he couldn't do, and that's what I think Cull Obsidian is more or less going to be here. Cull Obsidian is going to be a great explosive champion, but that's also fairly situational, kind of. You're not going to be wanting to use him for every single piece, like in a quest, or every path in a quest. It's going to be, and I think that's where he's going to be in the game in general. He's going to be one of those extremely nice to have champions, but he's not Ghost, he's not Corvus, he's not Omega Red, he's not a champion that can single-handedly take down entire quests or sections of them, because he doesn't have immunities, he has fairly limited playstyle, he does rely on being able to debuff opponent and having buffs on himself, and champion like that by definition is going to be more or less like a niche champion. He's going to be a champion that's going to be able to out damage everything and anything in any kind of region, especially because he's synergized well with Despair. He's going to be a champion that can put out some insane numbers, that's going to be fun to play. But he's not going to be your stable kind of workhorse. He's not a Hyperion type of champion. And speaking of Hyperion, like honestly, I think Cull Obsidian is slightly below grade for Hyperion, because Hyperion is a lot more sustainable. He has inherent heal if need be. He has power gain, he can stun lock if need be, he can debuff opponents to work with Despair, he's poison immune, and he can dish out insane damage with his Furies. So before everybody like kind of jump on the Cull Obsidian hype train, just consider original Hyperion, because there are a lot of similarities in between the characters, and honestly I prefer Hyperion over Cull Obsidian. Because yeah, Hyperion can also put absurd numbers, and he can do it quicker, and he can do it from fight 1. He doesn't need a ramp up, and he has a lot more inherent pluses and abilities to him, and you are able to use him in many different kind of ways other than Cull Obsidian. But yeah, I think here we are closing in towards end of the quest. We're on 10 roads already, and as we can see here, finishing Act 5 quest fights at 14 hits, it's crazy. But yeah, just the fact that you can't do it on every path, you can't do it on every quest, and you need to ramp up. And now is going to be the main event, and now we're going to be taking a look how Cull Obsidian is going to do against the Sabertooth boss, and how long is it going to take for us to kill it. So I know initially quite a few people struggled with this Sabertooth, and Cull Obsidian I think is actually a really good matchup here, just because of his armor breaks and the fact that he can completely pretty much shut down Sabertooth heal. And we can see how many hits does it take for us to deal with this Sabertooth. And keep in mind, this 6-star is unduped. When Cull Obsidian is duped, his damage still increases. But yeah, so we activated our route buff, maybe a bit prematurely, but still we're gonna manage to get quite a good amount of damage in there. So we're 16 hits in, he's already in half health. That's not bad at all. Now our route expired, Tennis' Blessings expired, and we're just going to be relying on our damage from armor breaks, which is still quite insanely big. And yeah, so we took some hits in a block, but we're chipping him down extremely quickly. And because of all the armor breaks, he cannot heal at all. And with that, I think we're just gonna have to launch our like level 3, and that's gonna be the end of the fight. So it's gonna take us about 35 hits, and then we shot level 3, and that is how quickly he can kill 6.1 boss. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys are gonna make your own conclusions about Cull Obsidian. I do really hope if you do have him that you enjoy playing with him. What are my final thoughts on him is that I really can't pass like judgment on where he is gonna fit in the game. He's definitely not gonna be a champion that runs through everything easily. I don't think he is like beyond god tier champion. I don't think he is close to as good as Ghost or Corvus or Megred is, or even Hyperion for the matter. But I do think there are some really good and interesting things you can take away from playing with Cull Obsidian, and definitely he's a worthwhile champion to have. And yeah, that's about it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it, and I'm gonna see you guys soon.